issued a warning to 17 major pharmaceutical companies demanding that they cut U.S. drug prices within 60 days or face government action. He insists that American drug prices be set in line with the lowest rates found in other developed nations. Now, this policy shift could have significant consequences for Indian pharmaceutical companies, which derive a large portion of their revenue from exports to the U.S. and typically enjoy higher profit margins in this market. What does this mean for Indian pharma players? To explain the potential ripple effects, let's hand it over to my colleague Varsha for further insights.
Yes, so President Donald Trump has issued a bold challenge to some of the world's largest pharmaceutical companies. Now he's demanding that they immediately lower prescription drug prices in the US to match the lowest prices paid by other developed nations. Letters has been sent to 17 major drug makers, which includes the likes of Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk and Pfizer. Now specifically, if you see, Trump is calling for immediate reduction in prices for existing drugs sold to Medicaid, and he insists that any future drug launch in the US must be priced comparably to international markets from day one. Now he has also presented a unique proposal wherein the US government would help companies raise drug prices abroad to match American levels, but any extra profits earned overseas would then be brought back to the US to offset domestic drug cost. Now if you see, the pharmaceutical companies have been given a strict 60-day deadline to comply this. Trump warned that if they fail to act, his administration would deploy every tool to address what he termed abusive drug pricing practices. Now if you see the market, how this is going to impact Indian companies, so Sun Pharma will actually be impacted, and that's the reason why the stock was under pressure today, because the Sun Pharma has the largest exposure to US branded specialty drug sales, which is a key drug, Ilumya, which treats cirrhosis in adult. And if you see, the Ilumya sales were around 5,000 crores in FY25, and over 50% of Ilumya sales are supported by Medicare Part B. Now if you see, drug generated 5,750 crore in FY25, accounting 56% of Sun Pharma drug revenue. In Ilumya's US price is reportedly 4x higher than the other developed countries, and the lowering prices to global parity could significantly reduce Sun Pharma's US revenue and earnings. So because of this, because of this regulation, Sun Pharma was under pressure as of today.
Right, Varsha, thank you so much for explaining why Sun Pharma was under pressure in trade today. But the fresh round of US tariffs, viewers, up to 25% will take effect from August 7th, with a default 10% rate continuing until then. Now, this means India's exports across key sectors like jewelry, textiles and engineering goods are now under threat. With penalties still unclear, concerns are rising across sectors. Let's now go across to my colleague Rishabh to understand the further impact of this.
Trump's tariff, we have a new date of implementation that has come in. Trump's tariff will be implemented on all countries starting August 7th. So that is when we can expect the 25% tariffs plus penalties to kick in. But till then, what we have is the 10% baseline tariff that is also applicable to all countries. Apart from that, from August 7th, what we can expect is that exports across sectors will be under threat. Number one being gems and jewelry, about $10 billion worth of exports will stand exposed to these tariffs. What we're seeing also is that these penalties that Trump imposed, there's very little clarity on why those were imposed, rather on what shape and form they might take. So there's very little clarity on those. There is clarity on why they were imposed, is because of India's Russia relations, as well as being a member of the BRICS and other issues that Trump has highlighted over the past few months as part of his politics. What we're also seeing is a textile sector will get disadvantaged by these tariffs. India will lose that tariff edge that it had compared to manufacturing economies like Vietnam as well as Bangladesh. What we're also seeing is that these sectoral tariffs on aluminium and steel, and also auto and auto components of about 50% and 25% respectively, they will continue separately. So an additional reciprocal burden will not be put on sectoral tariffs. That is what we're picking up. Another sector that is expected to be rattled is the engineering export sector, about $20 billion worth India sends to the US, and that will be hit also, about a $3 to $6 billion hit being foreseen on that bit. So a lot of things to unpack. Another 6 days now we're seeing. Remember all of this with the context of the August 25th trade talks that India and the US are set for. The US team is expected to be in India for those. So lots happening. We had the Commerce and Industry Minister statement as well yesterday. So lots to unpack in this in the run-up now to August 7th.
Right. And we're also actually learning that our sources have indeed told our NDTV Profit reporters that the negotiations over tariffs with the US is continuing to happen virtually. And, these tariffs, although contribute or affect our GDP really subliminally, but the negotiations, however, are continuing. And to give us more details, in fact, and clarity on this development that's coming in, let's go across to my colleague Rishabh, who's joining us on the phone line. Hi, Rishabh, please tell us what exactly are your sources telling you on our negotiations with them?
Yeah, so about these negotiations, we're hearing that they are ongoing, and it's not just about the August 25th in-person negotiations that I'm talking about. This is virtual negotiations on the sectoral level that are continuing. What we're also picking up from government sources is that these tariffs will not be actually applicable to about more than half of India's exports. So India exports about $85 billion worth of goods, of which about $20 billion will be around steel and aluminium, auto and auto parts. Those will make up the exports that are not hit by the reciprocal tariffs. They are hit by the sectoral tariffs. And also about $30 billion in electronics and pharma and petroleum. So those will not be impacted by any additional reciprocal tariffs. You'll have only about less than half of exports being impacted, about a 0.2 loss in percentage loss in GDP foreseen due to these US tariffs. Exports might see some slight hit, but that all of that is not enough, and that India will stick to its red lines and not allow US agriculture and dairy to access India's markets. That is something that we're picking up from our sources.
Thank you so much for that. And remember, viewers, this is an important development that has come in, and India definitely is holding its ground when it comes to its negotiations with America on finalizing a BTA. But